Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show, live Q&A. I'm Dr. Darrell Wolfe, and today's live Q&A is called Predicting the Future Through Nature's Cycles with Peter Temple. Okay, so Peter Temple, the truth sage, is one of the world's leading experts on the natural cycles that influence stock markets, climate, social mood. I know some people that could use that, and the economy, while forecasting periods of expansion and depression. For a period, he was the executive director of the Foundation for the Study of Cycles, founded in 1941. On a daily basis, he's a stock market analyst, forecasting the movement of U.S. equities, oil, gold, and the U.S. dollar related currencies. So let's begin the show. Good day, Peter.
Good afternoon.
Yeah,
Good to
isn't
be
it?
back.
It's a beautiful day, and it's a great afternoon, and it's
Yeah.
you know what? I think you're like me, Peter. That we every moment that we're alive, we're just grateful. We're grateful for what we have, and we're grateful for the minds that we have to create the lives that
Yeah.
we have. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, the mind is the most important thing. And there is so much going on right now in the world, particularly in the US, that it's an incredible time to be alive because you're seeing a major shift in just about everything. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And you know what? And I want everybody to understand that this is the most amazing time to be alive that I probably in the history of this planet. And the reality is, if you got your brave heart on and you're not running fear programs that you don't even understand, then you know what? Then you're going to be okay. Because the reality is just before I bring Peter on, we start answering the questions. Is a lot of people are scared about what they're going to do to us, what they're going to do to us. Containment centers, forced vaccine. They're not going to force vaccinate anybody because they've got so many people to vaccinate and to injure. They've got them ready to line up. I mean, everybody's wearing a mask, wants a vaccination. So just take a look at it, and then by the time they get to you, all the results from the vaccination will be out, and nobody will want one. So just relax. Mind your own business, which is mind your mind first, because where the mind goes, the body follows, and just stay calm and breathe. I actually have a lot of business dealings, and that's the thing. I really wish I wasn't in business, but you're in business, and because I do a fair bit of business with health around the world with people. I mean, let me just put it to you this way. I had one of my dealers today. Okay, he's gone into survival mode, and he actually ripped me off for thousands of dollars. And the reality is I can get angry, I can hate him, I can freak out, or I can just be on this show, stay calm, put a slight smile on my face, and know that planet Earth is a life-threatening, fun-filled adventure. And sometimes we win, and sometimes we don't. And the reality is I got to focus what I want in my life, not focus what goes wrong. And you got to mind your own business, right, Peter? What do you think?
Well, you got to mind your own business. The other thing is, I'm going to give people a lot of hope today because what's happening in the US, if they really understood, a lot of people don't understand what's going on in the background, but I do. I've done a lot of work on this and I've got some great contacts, and things are going to change for the better because right now we've got so much corruption out there and it is all over the place, but that's all going to get cleaned up in the next few months. So we're going to get back to a normal life. We're just going to get rid of all the bad guys. It really is good against evil. It really is a biblical moment we're going through. And so we're going to see that changing pretty shortly.
And I don't really believe that we're going to get back to normal because I don't
Well,
want to go back to that normal. I
a
am
new
so
normal.
glad that COVID happened and it's just blowing the crap out of everything. It's making people slow down and think. For those people who want to awaken, they will. And for those who want to stay asleep, well, what do you think, Peter?
Well, there's an awful lot. I've noticed that more in Canada because that's, of course, where we are compared to the US. But people are truly asleep. The herd certainly is. But there's
Yeah.
a certain number of people, I know they're in the audience today, that are alive and awake and know that there's some big changes coming up. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today, I think, with some of the questions we get.
And you know what? I'm going to tell something to everyone, and that is a storm that cannot last forever. There's never been a storm that lasts forever. So just really try to enjoy yourself, really try to learn about yourself, and really try to just take life in just as you would your breathing. Okay? So let's get started because you know what? We got 52 questions. 52 questions, and we cannot take any lives today. But guess what? Before we came on, Peter said that he would come back in about 4 to 6 weeks. Maybe we'll get him to come back. And what we'll do is we'll do a show probably without the slides, but he'll come on for a show, and then the next day we'll do a Q&A. Okay? You know what? That's it. Well, but what if he's all wrong? Then no, we won't have him back. Okay, here we go. Raphael asked, do you think Bitcoin will be used as an alternative currency?
No. More than that. So I don't have a chart on that right now, but from a technical perspective, Bitcoin is in what we would call a corrective wave to the upside. So it is going to completely retrace to the bottom. And I look at it that right now, since 1971, get my dates right, we have had fiat currency. It hasn't been connected to anything like gold, for example. No. So it just floats. And so we have this tremendous bubble, which I showed in part 2, in terms of the stock market. And really, Bitcoin is a bubble on top of a bubble. It is not supported by anything. It's not linked to gold. It is I just tell people it's a scam. It just isn't going anywhere as far as I'm concerned. What typically happens when you get these meltdowns of the economy and the financial system is countries go back to their original currency. And that's what I'm expecting is going to happen. So the nationalism, because we've had sort of globalism, and in Europe, they've had one currency. That doesn't work, and that's all going to fall apart. The central bankers would love to get a single currency in place and have it digital, but it isn't going to work, and that's very similar to Bitcoin. So the answer to that is no, I don't believe Bitcoin is going to be, it's not a currency because it's not widely used. It's not something that we would call fungible. And so it is kind of an investment that really isn't going anywhere. It's actually moving with the market right now, the larger U.S. market.
Thank you. Sebastian, at what point of the Uranus-Neptune cycle does debt matter?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've really never thought of it. Well, debt matters at the end. So the Uranus-Neptune cycle is 171.4 years. 172 years is what Wheeler called it, and that's pretty accurate. So at the end, debt becomes, see, what we do is inflation builds up from the beginning of that 72-year cycle. I wish I had a chart available for this because I do have a great one on this. And at the end of the cycle, then money is at a point where they have inflated it so much it's not worth anything. So in this particular 172 cycle, we have a financial system based on debt. Now that hasn't always been the case. So in this cycle, it's at the top of the cycle where debt becomes a real problem. And you'll find even in, the end of the English Empire, when I talked about 1603, when Queen Elizabeth I died, she was $500,000 in debt. The country was. So you always have debt at the end of a cycle, and it just didn't get paid off. Even Henry VIII before her had something like 250,000. I read an article the other day on Elizabeth that they said she did very well because she only got herself in debt another $150,000 or pounds rather during her reign. And it's not the way I would categorize it. I would still say that's a problem, but debt becomes a problem at the tops of these cycles.
Yeah, but what government agency knows how to handle money? None of them. So she really did do good. Leave her alone, will you? You're picking on her.
All right, I can leave her alone.
All right.
Leave her alone. She did okay.
Yeah.
She did a lot better than we've done today, that's for sure.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay, James, if someone had GICs, should they sell them?
GIC, everything is not going to do very well. I mean, GICs, because we're going to have a financial meltdown, I wouldn't do it yet. I would keep them probably for a little while longer. But once the market tops, GICs are going down with everything else. And it really, with GICs, it depends on, there's various things. GICs is kind of like cash, but normally people put them in a vehicle of some kind, and those are not going to do very well. Any investment in deflation goes down in value. So that's the problem.
Bingo.
I would sell it. I'm not a financial advisor, so I have to be careful. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, so I have to be a little bit careful with that. I'll tell you where things are going, but I can't really recommend what you should do. But it's pretty obvious that, I mean, if they're all going to cave, you want to not be in them. You want to be in cash. Cash is king over the next 100 years, pretty well.
Boom. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jim, just signed up for your Thrive Academy. What advice do you have for a person just getting into investing and trading? You said cash is king. As a Canadian, should I be buying a different currency?
Well, that's interesting. I did a little bit of work on this last month in terms of currencies. I typically say that the US dollar is going to go up in value because of deflation, but it looks like most of the other currencies are as well. So it really depends on, how well each of them do against the US dollar. And it depends how many, and really that depends on how much money in each of the countries gets destroyed. Because, I think Canada is in a lot of trouble financially. So we're probably going to have a currency that goes up in value quite a bit. Whether it'll go up in value more than the US dollar, I don't know. They're all going to be kind of even in a way, going up different levels, but they will probably stay somewhat in tune. So that's a difficult question to answer in terms of currencies. Was there another part of that question, Darrell?
Let me just take a look here. As a Canadian, should I be buying a different currency? And that's about it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. You could get into the US dollar is the reserve currency, so it's probably going to last longer than anything else. And I just don't know where Canada is going. It's a very complicated answer to that, and it really depends on what the government does.
Okay. And they don't even know. Okay.
They don't even know.
So, Cindy, if someone has gold and silver, would you recommend selling it now? If so, should you just keep cash on hand? Which currency?
Well, I would have some gold or silver coins. Silver is because really what you want to think about is not gold for an investment, because if we go into deflation, which I know that's where we're going, gold is going to go down in value. But the real value in gold is as a currency. So if you get in trouble in our currency, or the US dollar, for example, in the US, they start to inflate it in 5 years. It's really during hyperinflation that you want silver and gold coins. So gold is going up to about $2,000, $2,100 before it turns back down again. And it's, I don't have that chart in front of me either at the moment. But I'm going to set up this program just so I can see it. And I will check it from time to time here. But gold is going to go up to about $2,000, and then it's going down under $1,000 over the next 5 to 7 years. I expect that to last, to keep going down for quite some time. So gold is not an investment vehicle. Gold and silver are more things that you can count on, because they don't lose a lot of value. That, when currencies are not doing well in the next 10 to 20 years, everybody will be wanting your silver and gold coins because they can trust silver and gold. Let me just see where, I'm just quickly looking.
What about silver? Where's that going to? What's its high?
Well, it's going to do the same thing. Silver is at about $27, and it will longer term go down to somewhere around under under $10. So it's going to drop by half as well. And gold is going up to about 2,000 something. I don't think it'll get as high. Well, it could get to 2,100. And then it should head down under $1,000 over the next 5 to 7 years.
And silver, is silver going to go any higher than 27? Did you say 27 it's at?
Not, what's the top of silver? Top of silver is going to be about $30.
$30.
Somewhere, $31, somewhere around in there, I believe. And then it will head down. So there's still some upside to both of those, gold and silver.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, Jim, how can we predict the Elliott curve to make good decisions?
Well, that takes some work.
Okay.
If you really want to get into the Elliott wave, you really have to read the book.
Yeah.
And that's the Elliott wave principle. I'm putting out another book on that may be a little simpler than that book. But really, if you want to spend 5 to 6 years really understanding Elliott wave and getting good at it, great. But if you find find somebody that knows it, what I did was I got involved with the Elliott wave people, and got a subscription with them. And then I learned over time that they really didn't know what they were doing to a large extent. So I did my own thing, but it took me literally 5 to 6 years to feel comfortable with it and get good at it. And if you don't have the ability to see patterns very easily, and some people do, some people don't, then Elliott wave, really you want to find somebody that knows what they're doing with it and can help you with that, or give you stock picks, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the way I would approach it. It's a science. And so learning it is not a small thing, believe me.
Okay. So anyway, so what if somebody wanted to join and they wanted to become a member with you? How much does it cost? How do they join?
Well, it depends. I run 3-month subscriptions, 3 months, 6 months, or a year. And it's about, over a year, it's about, I think it's $750 for the year.
Yeah.
And so you would get then a nightly video, and every weekend I give
a nightly video.
I do a nightly video. For
Wow.
about
They're getting the bang for their dollar, aren't they?
Yeah, you really do. But that doesn't mean there's always something to trade. So, and right now we've got, the whole market is moving in tandem. So one of the challenges is that you don't find trades on an ongoing basis. Everything has to turn at the same time. Everything does turn at the same time. So sometimes there's no trading for a couple of weeks, and that becomes a little bit of a challenge.
I get it.
Yeah.
So, okay, but you're avoiding it. I don't know why, but how do people sign up with you?
Oh, they go to my site, worldcyclesinstitute.com, and there's a link to Traders Gold, and that's my subscription. Sorry.
It's okay.
And so you'll find the 3 different, and you can get a trial membership for a couple of weeks. So that will get you inside and let you see what I do.
Okay.
And it may not be right for you, or it may be right for you. It's a style.
Why wouldn't it be right? Why wouldn't it be right for me?
Well, it's not something that you can really do all that passively, the way that I operate right now, because you sort of can at certain times, but right now it's just a very difficult market, and so you need to pay attention to it, and be around for the big turns. That's the challenge with it. I'm not giving you stock picks. I'm telling you where the market is going,
right?
And telling you when to get in on the big moves and when to. It's really more of a what we would call not a day trading site, it's a swing trading site, which means more than a day. So I'm not giving you a turn, or I'm not giving you stock picks that are going to be within the day in day trading. It's really over a period of like a couple of weeks to a month, that sort of thing. We're going to have a big turn in sometime in January, and that will last for a good solid month. And so, if you get in at the right time, you're going to have a month of making a lot of money. It's going to be a major drop in the markets coming. So it's a case of being around at the right time and paying attention to it, because I do a video every night, so you have to log in and pay attention to it.
How long's your video?
About 15 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes. Right now, they're sometimes a little longer, 25, depending, because there's so much. It's just a very difficult market.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, right? It's a shake.
There's a lot going on, and it's a lot of. Normally, it wouldn't be tied to events, but right now it seems to be with what's happening in the U.S.
Right.
Because the U.S. dollar is the center of everything. It's the reserve currency, and the market internationally is all linked to the U.S. dollar, and so what Trump does right now and what happens with the U.S. is going to affect the dollar and the entire market worldwide, and that's what's happening at the moment.
I got a question. I know it's off track, but I don't know. What happened in Georgia? Do you know what happened in Georgia yesterday? Did anything happen in Georgia? Who won?
They stole the election again. It was very, very obvious. So the blue won. It was the Liberals that won, or the Democrats, and they won by the smallest of margins. But you could actually see it happen as they actually shut down. I was watching a video which gave me all the percentages and the numbers, and they shut it down for about 15 minutes right at the end, and then everything turned around and went upside down. in terms of, the Republicans were ahead, both of them were ahead, and then they shut this thing down for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then it turned around so the Democrats were ahead. It's very even right now, and I think they left it at too close to call. So we'll see where that goes.
Oh, God.
But there's some people eventually going to jail. And that's what the cleanup is going to be. There'll be a lot of politicians that are going to jail. There's a lot of treason going on in the U.S., and so that's what you're going to see. And I think I might have mentioned this before, but Gitmo is 3 times the size of what it was 4 years ago. And Donald Trump has also put out an executive order for FEMA camps. So they apparently have 220,000 indictments sitting in the wings. This is a worldwide issue, and it's just the corruption is so pervasive, it has to be cleaned up, and that's what they're going to do. It's amazing. It really is amazing of what they have planned. So there's a few people they have in jail, not to mention any names, Hillary and Bill, but that is going to keep on going. So they've already, if you notice, that Hillary and Bill have not been around for about a month, and Trump actually mentioned them in a speech today. He said, well, I wonder where they are. Haven't heard from them, with a kind of a chuckle. So there is a little bit of a problem there, but the problem is going to start to go away. You're going to see some rendition flights, and a whole bunch of people just are going to start disappearing, and they'll go into military tribunals. So it's a little bit of a complicated situation, but you're going to see some major changes happening, and you'll not be wearing masks for all that much longer. So that's a good thing.
Cool. I can't wait to take my mask off. Okay, so Ken, if cash is king and the value of Canadian dollar drops, as products are still based on other currencies, will we need to use more Canadian currency to buy products?
No, it's just the opposite. So all currencies are going to go up in value because there's going to be less of them around. So when debt implodes in our wonderful financial system, and I've got a video on my YouTube site for this, and also in the Truth Sage subscription series that teaches you about deflation. And so all of these currencies are going to go up in value because there's going to be less of them around. And in our banking system, when the bank gives you a loan, it puts more money out into the economy. It's all digital because they'll give you a $100,000 loan, and you take that and you go buy a house or do whatever you're going to do. When you repay that loan, because it's digital and it actually is debt, they record the debt on one side of the balance sheet and they record the liability on the other. And when you pay that back, that money just goes, it's digital, it goes back into, it just disappears. So they create it out of nothing. And when you pay it back, it goes back to nothing. So it destroys the money. So that means there's less money in the economy. So when they give you a loan, inflation, more money in the economy. When it goes back in and you pay it back, less money, deflationary. So when mortgages start to implode, that money also disappears. When the stock market comes down, that money also disappears. So you have less money in the economy. That's deflationary. It goes up in value because there's less of it. All assets go down in value. So your house will go down. So in the future, if you wanted to short the real estate market, you could sell your house now for $1 million and buy it back in 5 years, 7 years for about $150,000 because it's going to go down in value. The money is going to go up in value. And that's the concept that most people don't get because they've never been educated about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Tim, if you're a taxi driver, should you sell your taxi and plates right now? Would this service drop in price and value as well?
I would think you would probably, I just don't know anything. I can't really make a recommendation. I don't know much about the taxi business.
Okay, well, if you were a taxi driver, that's all.
You pay a certain amount of money, I think, for that license.
Yeah.
And yeah, it will most likely go down in value. I've been hearing that from people in New York that they've just cratered. And I was in a taxi a month ago here in Calgary, and the guy said the same thing, but he's sticking with it because he's already paid for it. So it really depends. It's like a house. Should I sell your house? Should I sell my house because it's at a high value right now? Well, it depends. If you're living in it, all houses are going to go down in value. And so it's really your personal situation as to what you feel comfortable with and what kind of risk you want to take on and whether you have a family or not. There's so many things that go into making that decision. that I can't really tell you what to do. I can tell you that your homes are going to go down in price, not in value, because the value doesn't really change, but the price does, because money is going up in value.
Right.
So it's up to you what you decide to do based on your situation. And that would go with the taxi license as well. But it is going to go down in value.
Thank you. Kinga, you said that the market will crash and things will go to normal with the stock market. Will bullion, precious metals, drop in price and value as well?
They will, but that's not because of the market dropping. It's more because we're going into a deflationary environment, and because gold and silver are priced in the American dollar. All right, you buy it based on that. Then, if the American dollar goes up in value, gold and silver will go down in price. So that's really how they're connected.
Thank you. Okay. Jennifer, you mentioned that during debt jubilee, people's debt will be gone and will go to square one. What does that mean? People won't have to pay back their mortgages and their loans, or will their property and purchases be taken away?
Well, that depends on what's going to happen. If you were listening, I just read an article the other day as to what this World Economic Forum, these oligarchs, what they really want to do and what China wants to do. So the idea that they had was they were going to make you get this vaccine, and if everybody got it, it would put a tracking device in your body that they would then be able to track you, and they would put you in a detention center unless you got the vaccine. And if you get this vaccine, then they would give you a monthly wage for the rest of your life. And what was the other thing? And then they would get rid of all of your debt, and they would get rid of all of your property, so you wouldn't own any property. So there's good things and bad things about it. That's what they want to do. Now, going forward, if Donald Trump cleans everything up and gets rid of these bad people, which is the plan, then that won't happen. But what will happen, or what they would like to do, is they would like to do this debt jubilee, which means all of your debt would go away. But I don't see how they can do that until the financial system collapses, because I can't see that happening during, if there isn't a civil war, then that might be okay. But I expect there's going to be a civil war, and I expect that's going to be in a lot of countries. And usually you can't do much of anything financially when that's going on. And so if the market is going to crash, and let's say it starts in a year, it may have to take 5 years to get to the bottom. Typically in history, that's what's happening. If you go back and look at the English situation, so Queen Elizabeth died in 1603, and I could just show you very quickly here. Let me just, this is good. Where am I doing my, share my screen? I'll just go here. Let me just do this because it's simple. So I think you can probably see that. That's Queen Elizabeth and the gang. So here's Queen Elizabeth here. Can you see that okay?
Not too good, but I'm sure they can on their TVs or screens, maybe.
Oh, okay. Why is it too small? But anyway, here she is. And this was her reign, and it went, this is 1600 right here. And her reign went to about 1603. And of course, she was next to bankrupt, and then everything started to head down. And so did the financial system, which was mostly grain, but it was also the feudalism system at that point. And they used their regular money, which of course they went into deflation. There wasn't much of it around. In 1694, 100 years after the Queen died, which was in here, they founded the Bank of England, which really started the new financial system. So that was 100 years after everything had sort of careened to the downside. So it takes some time to get these new systems in place. It's not something that happens overnight. And so that's what I wanted to really tell you, is it takes some time. I don't know when it's going to happen, but there's a desire to do it. We obviously have to do something because we've got more debt than we have ever had on Earth before. And I mentioned Ontario last time, when I was here, and California, and all of these places are so completely in debt that we need to get everybody back to square one. So that would be the plan. I don't know how it's going to roll out.
Good.
I hope that answered the question.
You did. Drake asked, you mentioned that prices of gold will drop. However, silver prices are the ones that are rising, and silver is used a lot in technology. Will silver prices crash as well, even though it is in high demand.
Well, there isn't going to be that much demand because when you get into an economy that falls apart, that's one of the reasons that, well, it's not, oil is up at about $50 right now, and it's going down. When this market crashes in the next couple of months, it's going to have a short crash. Like the Dow is going to go down around 10,000 points. Oil is going to go back down under $10. So because there just isn't any demand, this is an inflated price right now. They're keeping it up. But once this market comes down, there isn't going to be any demand. And the reason that oil is going down is that there isn't any demand. People are not, don't have an awful lot of money right now. They're not buying a lot of technology. Everybody's hurting. Christmas was not very good in terms of sales. It's probably the worst Christmas we've had, although they've kind of kept that a little quiet. So silver, yes, will go down in value, and so will just about, you're going to be able to get, if the companies are still around, if Apple's still around, for example, you're going to be able to buy computers at a lot less than you can buy them now, and they may go down 80% as well. There will be obviously a bottom there. They can't sell them at a price and still make some money. But all assets are going to go down in value as money goes up in value, and silver and gold are going to go down as well. So the problem we've got is that there is no demand right now. It's very little demand for anything.
This isn't a question. Well, it's my question. But when do you think we're going to go and see the pop, like the pop?
Well,
like when you really know, like right now, things are kind of quiet. There's a little spark here and a little flame there. But when's it going to go boom?
Well, I think we're going to have a boom before the end of January, I believe. I'm not sure when this thing is going to come down. It was interesting in the last 24 hours. My gang online has been looking at what's happening in the market, and it seems to be when good things happen to Trump right now, everything is going up, and when the Democrats lose, the market goes down. So I'm expecting that Trump is going to stay in for the next 4 years, because that's what the market is telling me, and you'll probably have to do the Insurrection Act over the next little while. But I think
what's the Insurrection Act?
The Insurrection Act is when they have, for example, he put out an executive order in 2018 in September the 12th, which said that if the U.S. Goes into an election and they have foreign interference, then he can do the Insurrection Act, or he can at least use that executive order. And in that executive order, he says that anybody that has aided or abetted a foreign power that has interfered with their election is liable for treason and can go to jail and will go in front of a military tribunal. So they've already established that has been the case. They've had foreign interference. And what's come out in the last 24 hours is that it started with Obama and Renzi in Italy. There's been this little talk about all roads lead to Rome. And so the two of them have conspired against the U.S. to swing the election. And so that's what's going to happen at the moment. And this is apparently just breaking in Italy, and it should break in the next few days in the U.S. Okay, so I've lost the train of thought there.
It was a good train. Okay.
Okay.
And if I can say something to everyone, watch my one a day tomorrow. And tomorrow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be talking about. They did a whole thing on Fauci. Okay. And I'm going to talk about some other things that are coming down in Quebec, Canada. But I'm going to give you a link that you can go watch a show that a few very powerful people have done to uncover everything about Fauci. And you need to go and watch this. And actually, Dre.
And Gates.
What?
And Gates as well.
Yeah.
And Gates.
Yeah. Can you do me a favor and go tell them to go on my email and get the link, and then we'll give everybody the link before the end of the show today, so they can go and watch this Fauci. You got to watch it, everybody. You need to watch this and share.
Probably
it.
the same one that's on my site. It's on my site.
Oh, it's on your site. Well, then tell everybody where to go.
Well, they have to have a subscription because I don't have it out in the open. It's
okay. I'll get it.
What's going to get taken down? So.
Well, thanks a lot for the tease. Okay. Listen, Drake, can you get the link? Okay, tell them to get it, and just know that Marcel My brother sent it to me. Okay, and make sure we get that link before the end of the show. I'm going to give it to everybody, and you need to go watch this show. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great. It's very well done. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's bring it on. Okay, so Tina, in the 1800s, there were depressions about every 20 years. Is this the only time this phenomena occurs?
No, it also happened to Spain in the 1500s. It was more bankruptcy in their particular case, but it was every 20 years. And I think 6 of them in a row. And I think there were 6 of them in a row in the 1800s as well. It went into 1911 or something. But yeah, so no, it's happened before. And it probably has happened at another time. It's just those are the ones that I'm aware of.
Linda, can we get a timeline of when the economy will go down? You kind of said that, as well as when we will thrive again.
Well, that depends. When you will thrive, well, it depends on what you do. If on my site, if I'm talking about thriving, is really getting in sync with what is happening in nature. And when I say that, if money is going to go into deflation, then you want to be in cash. And if you're in cash and you don't have any investments and you don't have a lot of debt, then you'll do just fine because your cash is going to go up in value. And that means you can buy a whole bunch of things for a lot less money. So it's dealing with the financial situation in the right way and getting on the right side of it. And you will be able to thrive at any time if you understand. It's the old buy low and sell high. Many people get enthused about when the market is really hot in housing and they go buy a house at the top of the market. Okay, don't do that. It's not a good idea. So it's that kind of thing, understanding buying and selling and treating large investments as if it's a business. That's the way I look at it. Unless you want to fall in love with a house and the money doesn't really bother you, then that's fine. But the thriving can go on all during the next few years if you understand what's going to happen. And that's what I do on my site, try and teach people what to do with money and when to get in and out and that sort of thing.
All right. Fred asks, I've got $1 million in the bank, and how do I get it out? If you say that the banks are going to go bankrupt, how do I get it out? Because when I go to the bank, they don't want to give me my money.
Well, it's your money. They can't stop you. The other thing is that if you wanted to, you got about a year until the market's going to go down. Go to them and take out $10,000 a month, or $100,000 or $50,000 every couple of months or something like that. Usually, you have to tell them ahead of time, but it's your money, and so you can take it out. They can't stop you. But I would do it. I would start early and take it out in increments. And I would keep in enough in the bank to do any transactions you want to do because we're still doing transactions electronically.
So if I told my bank I wanted them to get $50,000 ready for next week, they would have to do it legally.
Yeah, they have to do it.
Okay, all right. So, okay. All in toonies. Okay, all right. Sebastian, if banks will go bankrupt, here's another one. Where do you store your value?
Well, in the 1930s, mattresses were big. In fact, you had to have a big mattress to put all your money in it. So
soup cans.
Pardon me?
Soup cans.
Soup cans. Or get yourself a safe. Or if you find what's the word I want? A box. I'm getting older. I can't think of the word. A box that the bank has that you stick your money in outside of the bank.
Yeah, but who would have that? A safety deposit box?
A safety deposit box.
Yeah, but
just make sure that. Well, banks sometimes have safety deposit box.
Yeah, but is it safe to do that in a bank?
Well, it depends on. I was going to say it depends on the bank. So check out the bank or wherever you're going to use this safety.
What
deposit
about a credit
box.
union?
Credit unions are, I think, better than banks, but it depends on the credit union. And you really need to look at their financial report and figure out how they invest their money. Or some of them don't invest their money outside. They are a bank that actually keeps it.
Yeah.
And for the investors that put the money in there, but most banks will go out and put it in the stock market, or they will do a lot of mortgages. Banks are really mortgage holders. And so if you got a bank that's doing a lot of mortgages and they are not very careful as to who they give that money to, that's a problem. So it really depends on the bank.
What if I were not me, but what if this guy who's got this $1 million, what if he were to transfer it into that bank and you said in Alberta, Would that be smarter?
Yeah, I don't know. I got somebody the other day that questioned me about the Bank of Nova Scotia, Bank of North Dakota. You have to live in the state to be able to use that bank.
But what about
I'm not.
Alberta?
I don't think you do in Alberta. I think you can be from anywhere. Well, in Canada, I believe, but I don't really know. I've never researched that. That's the bank that I'm using, but it's backed by taxpayers, and so you're always and the premier is the guy that pretty well runs it. So if he does something wrong, he knows he's not going to be in office. So there actually is the buck stops here kind of thing. But with a private bank and investors, they're just not going to give you your money. It's going to just fold.
What was the bank called in Alberta?
Alberta Treasury Branches, ATB.
Oh,
Alberta Treasury Branches.
Okay. Yeah. All right, ATB. All right, Karen, the Mondstadt Minimum.
Mondstadt Minimum.
Okay, lasted about 70 years, from 1645 to 1715. Do you see a similar downturn ahead?
Yes.
First, can you tell everybody what that is? Because I don't know what it is either.
The Mondstadt Minimum is where that was that slide that I was showing you before. I'm going to just put this. Tell you what I'll do. I'll just do this a little differently, and we will. I don't want that there. We're going to go over here. And I will share that, and then let me just put this over there. So here's this. Okay, so this is better now, probably, that you can see it a little better.
Yeah.
This is this English high. And when I say that, I'm talking about temperature. So here's the temperature. And so this was, again, good old Queen Elizabeth, who died in 1603. And then everything started to go downhill, and you can see it right here. And that is they called it the Mondstadt Minimum starting at about 1645. So you can see that this is the temperature, and it came down. So 1645 down to about 1715, which was only here, but it went down a little bit. Well, 1715 actually was in here somewhere because the numbers have changed. So about 1715 down in this area here. So I'm expecting the same thing with our highs. Now, do I have, that's not the right one. Let me just pull up another one here very quickly, which is that the right one? No. Let me just find, there it is. Okay, so let's just go look at this guy here. And if I show my navigator, we'll go to, where's today? So this is pretty close to where we are today. So here's the year 2000. And this has gone up this is 1900 here. So you know that we've had this warm period, and it got cool and wet in the 1970s, and we had a depression during the 1970s, and then it's just been getting hotter. Well, we're at the high right now, and I'm expecting, if you go look at this good old chart, what I'm expecting, and this is going back to, here's Julius Caesar, so 0 or 1 AD, and then we had a high in temperature. This blue line is the temperature, and then we had another high here about 1,000 years later, and then that's 500. About 500, about 1,000 years, 977, and then we've got another high right here, about 1,000 later than that. At 2007 was our top. I'm expecting this to go down just like we've had in all of the past periods. They have a different kind of pattern on the downside. Like, it didn't get all that cold here, but it certainly got cold here, and it got colder than that here. And this was the Mondstadt Minimum in this area here. So I'm expecting that it's going to get cold, and the sun is getting cooler, and we seem to be getting cooler with our highs. So we may even go lower than the Mondstadt Minimum. And usually, if you think about this as being 1,000 years, it can go down fast and only take about a couple of hundred years, or it can take a very, very much longer period of time, go down about 700 years. So I don't know the answer to that, but over the next 500 years, I expect it to get colder and drier. I hope that answers your question. That's about as much as I can tell you, and it's already at a high right now, and it's starting to get cooler. We're getting a lot more ice in the Antarctic and also in the Arctic. So it's beginning.
So we're getting more ice, but they say that we have climate change and it's getting hotter and everything's melting. So, you know.
Well, they say that, but it's not. It's getting colder.
You know what? All I got to say is whatever the majority believes, don't even go there, because the majority think they know how to eat. They think they know how to love. They think they know how to do everything. They think they know how to exercise. They think they know how to have a good time and understand something. Never follow the herd. Don, does a turn down into a colder climate always amount to the end of the ruling empire, such as United States now?
The big turndowns every 1,000 years, yes. It's more like every 500 years and every 1,000 years. Usually the 500 years, well, it depends. 500 years can be a high in between the 2000s. But the 2000s, at those highs, yes, you always get the empire which destructs during that downturn when it gets colder and drier. Absolutely. And it also, every 500 years, the center of power on Earth moves from the east to the west and back again. So every 500 years, it'll be either the east, like it could be China. I'm expecting the next 500 years, the major power is going to be either China or Russia. It will go to the east of the globe.
So we're not looking at United States crashing in the next 100 years or 200 years or
a couple of 100 years.
We got a couple 100 years left before she goes.
Well, it's starting to go down now, and so you'll start to have weak leaders, and you will probably have a lot more palace intrigue going forward, and we'll start to have pandemics, and we'll clean out some of the population and all of that kind of stuff. So it'll be gradual. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it took Rome about 500 years to hit the bottom, and some of the other ones, also the Byzantium, the Byzantine Empire, about the same. So it takes a while for it to totally destruct.
Yeah, but we got one other thing going on, though. We got 86% of the population has 2 or more autoimmune diseases, not just one. And then we got 80% of the population pre-diabetic. We've got 60% of the population actually is suffering of cancer in their lifetime. We've got 55% of the population actually has a heart attack or a stroke. So the reality is there's a lot going on here, right? So it's not going to take much of something to really knock people over. I mean, the people that are passing with the cold flu, what they call COVID, right, are the people that are really old and sick or really sick and younger, right? So that's the way it is. And we've got a lot of sick people with all this new and improved and all the toxins that are happening because people really don't know how to protect themselves, right?
That's right. And some of that's been orchestrated by
some of
the
it
powers that be,
the
pharmaceutical industry, of course, which they create disease so that they can sort of fix it. Not really. But and so it makes them money. But that affects the entire world. So that doesn't really have to do with the US sort of self-destructing and moving from east to west. But it's the entire world. We need to get people healthy again, and I think that's what's going to happen as we go back to natural ways of and also a lot of the remedies that they've been hiding from us.
Yeah.
Because they can't make any money on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get healthier.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about those remedies too in upcoming shows because people don't realize how much crystal energy and using light with crystals is like mind-blowing, and it can heal a lot faster than any food. Sherry, many economists are predicting hyperinflation in the near future. Is that something you see on the horizon for the U.S. dollar?
No, most economists don't understand deflation. Economists are not taught about cycles.
Right.
So when you talk to an economist, they look at what's happening now and they'll say to you, well, if this keeps going, this is what's going to happen. And that's as much as they can tell you, and they don't understand deflation because they've really never been taught it. And so that's where cycles come in. No, we're going to have deflation. We have never had a depression in the history of the world that has not been a debt
created?
What's the word? A debt crash. It's been a problem with debt. And when you have a problem with debt, then your money goes up in value because money starts to disappear. So it's going to be deflationary. It always has been every time we've had, and people don't read history either. So there you go. I happen to do both. I'm not an economist, and I wouldn't profess to be one, and thank goodness I'm not.
Okay. So, Dennis, the globalists and the central bankers are talking about a digital currency. Do you see that scenario ever truly playing out?
No, no. I mean, there may be digital currencies in countries, but you can look at Europe and what they've done to Europe. Europe is falling apart, and the digital currency doesn't work because they put in a digital currency in all of these countries, but they all have different economies. So some are going bankrupt and doing things, and other ones aren't. And then they're all paying for it with the same currency. So you get different governments are ticked off. For example, Germany was ticked off when Greece was going bankrupt because they had to foot the bill. And as a group, so it just doesn't make any sense. And so there's your answer. No, I don't ever see that happening.
Thank you.
And we're tribal anyway. I mean, human beings are tribal, and so you want to have your own currency for your own country. Because if we had the euro in Canada, we would have to. I mean, the value of that money would be based on what's going on in Europe, and it would be the same currency as them. So we have different parameters. We're an oil-based country, and oil is going to tank, and we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So we want a currency that's going to tank with it. No, but but if you have control of your own currency as a country, then you can either create more of it or less as you need it. So you don't go through these great big ups and downs based on what happens in other countries, and so it just isn't going to happen. It makes no sense to have a digital currency all over the world. It will create all kinds of problems.
Rini, should we pay off all our credit card debt?
Well, that's a good question. Yes, for one reason, because if we're going into deflation, which has already started to a very small degree, then the value of money goes up. That also affects debt because the value of your debt comes back, increases, and becomes harder to pay off because there's less money in the future to pay it off with because money is getting destroyed. I've talked about, when we have these market drops. What's the word I want? When we have a crash, then your money is getting destroyed, and so that's kind of the problem with it in terms of the value of your money. What was that? Give me that question again.
Okay. Should we pay off all our credit card debts?
Oh, yeah. That's the other part of that. So, yes, generally you should, and I can't tell you when we're going to have this debt jubilee. That's the other thing. So if you miss it, you miss it. But it's just a question I don't have the answer for. You should pay it off because you don't want to get in a situation where we're going into deflation and it becomes more difficult to pay off. Then you can just kind of go bankrupt and come back in 7 years. I mean, there's different ways to do it. But
do you actually think
should? I just don't know about this wild card, the debt jubilee.
Yeah, but what if it never happens? And maybe
what if it never happens?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's going to, but I don't know how and when.
Okay. Sarah, in terms of your predictions for a market crash in 2021, how probable is it that scenario, if probable, how accurate is your timing prediction?
Well, Elliott wave, the technology that I use and the science I use does not have very good timing mechanisms. So I have to go by, we're very close to a top now, and I'm really kind of figuring out based on the waves that I know that we have going forward, how long they're going, because I know we have one great big drop coming and then one great big new high coming. And if you go by the previous ones that we've had recently, the drop is going to take about a month. And I think, and this recent rise from the same position that we're going to on the downside has taken about 8 months. So you kind of figure if we go down in a month and we go back up in 8 months, we're talking about sort of the end of the year or right into 2022.
So you think we could actually really crash in just a month from now?
No, we're going to have one that's going to come down about 10,000 points in the Dow, for example.
Okay.
And then we're going back up to the top, and then we're going to have the big crash.
Then it'll come. And when do you think that is? 6 months, 8 months?
I think that's either the end of 2021, end of this year, or early 2022.
Thank you. Okay, just not got to know when to pack my bags.
The
Okay.
best I can do, yeah.
Okay. If central bankers have been able to keep the stock market and economy afloat since 2007, why do you think they won't be able to continue that?
Because we're at the end of the wave pattern. And they just, I mean, that's a technical thing. I look at it, it's also from a fundamental standpoint. Money is now, because they've inflated and put all of that, what was it, $800 trillion? No, 8 trillion dollars, I think, into the economy. When you do that, it inflates the economy and it inflates money, but at the same time, money becomes less valuable. So you're putting it in, if it was the 1950s, our dollar would have been worth about 50 cents. And so they created the beginning of the rise that we've had in the stock market with 50-cent dollars. Now we're at the top and they're putting in 4-cent dollars. So 4-cent dollars, they need to put in a ton of it to keep this market afloat. And if they keep inflating it, it's going to get to 2-cent dollars. And there's just no way you can keep it up putting in money that's worthless. It's where money's virtually worthless compared to what it was 50 years ago.
Thank you.
So if that helps, I hope.
It does.
It's understanding the value of money, but part of it's technical.
Absolutely. So, hey, everybody, earthheroestv.com. Earthheroestv.com. Okay. And it's called Focus on Fauci. Okay. I need you to start spreading that out to everyone. Everybody needs to watch this. You really do. I don't care if you go in negative about it or thinking, whatever. Go in and watch it, and then let's pull back the blanket, okay?
It's really compelling.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. Even the people that don't want to believe it, oh well, get ready, because maybe put a diaper on or something. I don't know. Carl, do you see a revolution on the horizon, and when might it occur?
Well, I'm just actually going to do a new video later on tonight talking about that, because I'm taking that English scenario and I'm basically going to put down in writing and clear away Elizabeth and some of the other kings and things and show you the progression. Because, at the top we have authoritarianism and propaganda and those sorts of things. And then you typically go into a civil war. And then when it gets colder and drier, or colder, it gets colder and wetter, first of all. And as it gets colder and wetter, people start to wake up and they're more energized. And that's when you tend to have the revolution. So if I went to that same pattern, if you remember the numbers, rather than bring this up, if you thought about 1603 and when Elizabeth ended her reign, 1603, the Glorious Revolution was in 1688, and they had revolutions all over the place. So that was about 75 years past the top of the market. So if that gives you any idea, usually it takes some time. It can be shorter. You never know. But as it gets colder and wetter, typically people wake up, and it really comes to the point of how long are they going to take this stuff? When do they get tired and they aren't going to take it anymore? And so it differs, but I'd give it, if they're going to have a major revolution, the top of this was 2007. So we're already sort of 20 years into it, 15 years into it. So I don't really know, but I would say in the next 30 to 40 years, we're probably going to have a revolution. It has to be after the crash. Normally it's after the crash. So you're talking about probably another 10 years really before it really takes off and we have a revolution.
Thank you. Janet, how sure are you that prices of houses are going to decline by 80%?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. All right.
Deflation, that's what happened in the 1930. That's exactly what happened. And it also happened in 1835, and it was a lot worse in 1664. Those are the 172-year patterns. So it just always happens.
Tom, where is the safest place to live if we have a civil war erupt?
Antarctica would be pretty good. I don't know. It's kind of relative.
Yeah, it is.
You don't want to be, I don't think, on the West Coast, Vancouver area or California, just because one of them could fall into the ocean. There's that, of course, you get earthquakes and those types of things. And I just think we're at an extreme right now where it's very warm. And as it gets colder, those things tend to happen. The other thing is you've got that volcano in northwestern U.S. In Yellowstone.
Yeah.
You don't want to be living near that, because if that blows, so it's really kind of common sense. You want to be somewhere where there's lots of food. So you need to be, like, we're in a city, Calgary. You can get in your car and go 20 minutes and you're in farmland here. It's a city that has finite edges to it. If you were in Los Angeles, you have to go forever to get to farmland. So that's probably not a good place. So you really want to be somewhere where you can get to food and farmers, because transportation systems are going to break down. And I think you want to be where you can walk to water as well. In Calgary, we have the Bow River, which comes down from the mountains. So it's pretty good water. And you can boil it and do whatever you want to it. But we're close to water. I can walk to it. So you need water and you need food, and you also need energy. And so, a place that has energy would be good too. So the Houston area, it really depends on where you are and where you live now. But there's going to be a big move, which I've been telling people for the longest time, a migration from the urban areas to the country. You do not want to live in a big city when all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, well, the denser the population, the more destruction's going to happen. Yeah. And understand something, even with the 5G, everyone, the 5G satellites are most of them are actually shooting at the large cities like New York or Los Angeles. They're getting the 5G bomb. And then there'll be the 5G, towers on every corner on posts pretty soon. So, and then guess what? Wait till you try to get the water if it's turned off. Where are you going to find that? Right? If you're, unless you're going to go to, or where are you going to get food? I mean, food's going to run out really fast. So the more dense the population, the more riskier it is in this situation. And the reality is, take a look at these psychos that are running this whole scam right now. They want to push everybody into the cities like a bunch of rats so that they can track and trace us and just, it's whatever. They call it the harvest for a reason.
A lot of them are going to jail in the next 6 months, so I wouldn't worry as much about that. The other thing is 5G. I don't think it will ever be fully implemented, because we're going into a depression, and there isn't going to be the money to do it, and there isn't going to be the demand. So I think everything is going to kind of stop dead. It's like in the 1970s, was it 70? No, 1980s in Calgary, there were a whole bunch of buildings that just didn't get finished for about 10 years. They just sat there half built. We're going to have the same thing now, because of these financial tops. We always have people building like crazy, and a lot of these buildings are going to remain empty for years, and a lot of them aren't going to get finished. It's the same sort of thing. Yeah, and that will happen in other areas as well.
When I was down in Panama, they were building like high rises like crazy. Now, most of those buildings are empty right now.
Because money is cheap. They don't, interest rates are not high. Well, why are interest rates not high? It's because nobody wants the money and the economy's bad. And, we get all these governments to say, well, we're going to build these things now because money's cheap. But that the interest rates are going up. If it's low, they only have one other place to go, and that's up. They can't go lower.
Right.
So it's just this crazy thinking is you don't want to be doing that. So that's what's going to happen.
Claire.
Always does.
What happens if we have a large depression and the health system collapses? Well, I think the health system already collapsed a long time, Claire. And I think that, if the health system were to actually collapse, people would be healthier. But don't get me, what do I know?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that your business is going to do very much better, because you're all about natural health, and that's where we're going. That's where we should be going. And me having a chronic disease, I was on these pharmaceuticals. I got hooked for 5 years on OxyContin, and because the doctor suggested I be on it and said, well, you'll find your own level. And yeah, I did, but I thought in 5 years it was going to kill me. And at the point that I wanted to get off it, nobody would help me get off it. So I took one summer, and I basically said, okay, these are the scripts I want. And I just went through hell for 3 months. And that's the kind of pharmaceutical industry that we have. It's not healthy. And so it's much better to get back. I'm off all my pharmaceuticals, and I'm really just on healthy stuff like D3, vitamin D3 and C, and in large dosages. And most of the rest of the stuff is just natural.
Yeah, and just know that,
Yeah.
Peter, just know this, that we have a product that is called Amazing Magenta, and it's made out of coconut oil, and it's C60. Look that up. But this is made out of coconut oil, and it is 1,000% stronger than vitamin C intravenous. Okay?
Really? Wow.
So just know that. And that product is going to blow everything apart because what it can do. It is beyond Thunderdome. We also have C60 in an olive oil, but the coconut oil is really different because you can use it on your skin as well. Rita, I hear talk of a possible debt. Okay, Jubilee. We already did this one. Thanks, Rita.
Yeah.
Go back and check it out. Okay, love. Joyce.
It's called Nacera Gacera, and you think you know that as well. So
Yeah. Joyce, what do you think of purchasing T-bills?
they're relatively safe. Governments can go bankrupt. They have before, and that's the issue you have, but they're about the safest thing out there. You're not going to make a lot of money on them, but it's going to keep your money safe. So your money will also be safe and probably safer in a safe in your house or your mattress. So it's up to you. If you want to put them in T-bills, great. It's probably the safest place. For example, in the US or even in Canada, usually the country doesn't go bankrupt, and well, it could go bankrupt, but the chances are much less than banks going bankrupt or other financial tools that are out there. So it's good, but it's not guaranteed to keep your money safe.
Joyce, now this is kind of similar to other questions, but it's not. I read through it. Joyce, silver holds some value, gold holds much value. During this time with no money market, in what way will silver and gold be used to keep us afloat until the period is over? Will there be money exchange by machines or companies? How would we spend it? How will we pay for utilities that are also owned by major investment companies? What would you suggest, Peter?
Well, I don't know. In past major depressions, they've gone to bartering systems. And you go way back in time, and they used pepper as a that would be awful. Pepper as a currency. It's just a currency can be virtually anything. So it is just, if the currency fails, and it really comes down to a confidence level. If the population or the herd doesn't trust the currency, then they don't use it. And so then silver and gold, because if they trust that more, so then they'll start using it. So it really depends on what happens. And I don't know the answer to a lot of that, because we're at a different time than we were in the 1600s, for example. And so I don't know what's going to happen this time. We may end up going to a bartering system for a while. It may be silver and gold, but silver and gold aren't going to be the currency of the day, because there's not enough of it around on Earth. So it can't be the currency, and that's one of the problems with it. So it will probably be a paper currency. It may get tied to gold, to keep it at a certain level. But I think there's a great book, if you want to learn about currencies, there is a book called Web of Debt. And I don't know whether you can see this if I put it up there, but I don't, because it disappears. Yeah, Web of Debt. And it is by Ellen Hodgson Brown, and it takes you all through money and some of the alternatives to it. But you want to have money tied to something, and it could be, for example, tied to population. So if the population goes up, you print more money, and if the population goes down, you print less, and the money value of the money will stay at the same level. So that's one way of looking at it. The problem with tying money to silver and gold stay at the same level all the time. So you can't sort of increase money in the economy without inflating it. And so there's just some issues with that. So I'm not sure what we're going to do in the future. We will probably have money, but it will be either tied to gold or silver, or tied to something that they can regulate.
Right.
I don't know what that is.
Joyce, if you sell your house and have cash, you say a suggestion would be to rent and not rebuy at these times. How logical is it to pay rent and still you have no investment with your money? In Florida, the average 2-bedroom is 850 plus almost a mortgage payment.
Okay, so this is the problem that people have with understanding that money can go up in value, because our money is fiat money and our currency, and so it floats in value. So if we go into deflation, your 4-cent dollar may end up going as high as 60 cents in value. So all of a sudden you've made 4 into 60, 20 times. 25 times the amount of money that you have just by staying in cash. So cash appreciates in value. It's the first time. It did a little bit in the 1970s. It certainly did in the 1920s and 30s, but those are the only 2 times that's happened. The rest, it's been inflation, and it goes down in value. So prices go up all the time. This is going to change. Prices are going to go down. Your money is going to go up in value. So that's one of the key things that you need to kind of get used to, the idea of deflation. Did that answer the question? Was that close enough?
Yeah, you did a good job.
Okay.
Rini, are credit unions still... Okay, we already did this one. Ina, Dr. Darrell, thank you. Also, when Peter talks about cash, is it better to have it in USD or Canadian or Euro? I think the country you're from, right?
Well, I wouldn't keep it in euro, because the euro is going to, I mean, if you're living there, you pretty well have to do that at the moment, but because the euro is going to crash. I don't think in 5 years we're going to have euros around, or it'll go up a lot in value. There won't be that many countries. I think countries are going to revert to their own currencies, because we've got Italy that's bankrupt, Spain is bankrupt, Portugal is bankrupt, UK is bankrupt. So I think they're eventually going to get control of their own currencies again. None of these countries have control of their currencies. They get their currencies from the Bank of International Settlements, which I explained before. So they've lost their sovereignty. And so they're not in control of their economies, because they have to get their money from these bankers in Europe. So we need to get back to sovereignty, and in all of these different countries, and they will be using their own currency, I would think. So what was the question? I was explaining that, and we've gone through so many of these now.
Also, when Peter talks about cash, is it better to have in USD or Canadian or Euro?
Well, I wouldn't keep it in the euro, but the rest of the currencies I think will be around. I think, as I mentioned before, they're kind of all going to go up in value to different levels, and I don't know which one's going to go up more than another. But the idea is that it is currency, and it's going to go up in value no matter what it is, because this is not going to be just one country that goes bankrupt and loses all of this currency. It's going to be everybody together. So currencies are going to go up in value, because the currencies are going to get destroyed. There's going to be less of them around. Doesn't matter. It's going to be the same all over the world.
Thank you. So I'm going to read the question just so Mary knows we did, but we already answered this. Mary, would now be a good time to invest, and in what? You answered that already. Dennis, what does Peter think about Bitcoin? Dennis, we answered that already.
Yep.
Eileen.
Don't like it.
Don't like it. We don't like Bitcoin. Okay, Eileen, please have Mr. Temple give us advice on how to secure our savings so the government or no one else can seize it.
Well, that would be a safe or a mattress.
That's it. Kelly.
It's the best.
Yeah. Okay.
Or a safe deposit box.
Yeah. Or a big safe that nobody can carry away. Okay, Kelly.
Or a hole in your backyard, or whatever you want.
That's right. There comes the soup can again. Okay. Kelly, what happens when Bill Gates dims the sun?
When Bill Gates what?
Well, with all the chemtrails, right, that he's doing. He's doing chemtrails, and he's dimming the sun. I don't know if you want to answer that one.
Oh, this dimming the sun thing. He's nuts. Well, dimming the sun, it's getting colder and drier. Like it's these people, they destroy our energy just when it gets colder and drier and we need it. And they talk about dimming the sun. This guy, this Bill Gates, is really out of his mind. He's one of the guys that's going to prison pretty soon. So that I don't think is going to be an issue. But I mean, honestly, I read that and it's just nuts. It isn't going to happen.
You know what? It's the craziest thing. I mean, I'm starting to believe in this whole predictions and cycles thing, because where did all these cycles come from? Where did they come from? They all just seem to come together, and they're all just doing their thing and thinking they can take the whole world and put us all in a little box. Isn't that something? you know what? I can't be threatened. Katie, where can I get a common law person? You know what, Katie? I want to tell everybody this right now that there's a group, okay, that's in the Okanagan Valley where I live, and they've put together a whole manual on common law. Understand that. And you can actually get that. And what I'll do tomorrow, when I do my one a day, I'll make sure that I have who you get in touch with to get this common law manual, because common law supersedes what's going on right now. It really does. But you got to know how to speak to people when they come and knocking at your door. Like I've got some papers right on my door. I'll actually show them, and I'll do a video and I'll show them, but I'll also tell you where you can go and how you can actually join and start to learn how to speak properly. Because when they start talking legalese, that's what they call it, you know, if you say the wrong thing, they got you, right? So there's certain things you need to say and it puts them right in their place, okay? So the reality is you got to know that there's been like, a couple hundred years where they have really just messed all the wording up. And if you say the wrong word, but if you say the right word, Peter,
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I now wrote that down. I think I'll put something on my site as well. That's a good idea.
Actually, Peter, what I can do is I'll give you the phone number of the gentleman that actually put this together. They're very smart on what they've done.
That'd be fabulous.
And understand, it's already worked, everyone. So please, this isn't you testing the waters and going to jail over this. These same guys that put this common law binder together, because common law supersedes everything else. You know, somebody gets a ticket or somebody gets this or that. All they have to do is they have to write the right letter, say the right words. It's shut down. And I'm telling you right now, okay, it's the whole thing is rigged. The whole going into court, it's all rigged. You don't want to go into court. And understand, I do know people that they just have to send in the right letters, the right notices, and it shuts it down. So, Katie,
Good point.
So anyways, I will get the information and I'll put it together. Hopefully sometime tomorrow, I'll do a one a day on that. And then, yeah. Okay.
And the good news is going forward over the next 20 to 30 years, there's going to be much more democracy and a lot more tools put in place to keep us safe as human beings, you know, the population, the constituents of countries. So that while we have authoritarian right now and you're losing your rights are going to start to come back as we get colder and drier over time.
And understand something. The laws were not made for human beings. We do not have a justice society. We have a judgment society where you don't matter. You don't matter. Okay. Karen, what's the best bank to keep your money safe? Also, should all your money be kept in one place, as we are all concerned about the future? What are the best scenarios we should be doing to make a plan?
Well, it depends where you live, you know, and that's a big part of it. I don't know. We've talked a little bit about this. I don't know what the best bank is. I've talked about public banks versus private banks, and really and there's another book by this lady Hodgson, which is about public banks as well. She does a lot of she's a lawyer, does a lot of great writing about banks. So the more you can learn about money, the better off you are in understanding money and how it works. That's about as much as I can say. And I try and teach a lot of that. I have a lot of articles on my worldcyclesinstitute.com site on money and how it's going to change in value.
Jerry, where does one purchase gold and silver coins, please? If you live in my area, you can give me a call. I've got a gentleman, his name is Steve, and he's honest, and he'll help you out. And he lives right in Kelowna. And then I'll let you take it away there, Peter.
Well, that's the same thing I would say. I have a short list of people in Canada, and I know a couple of people in the U.S. that are well thought of. And you know, when you're dealing with them, if you're going to be buying silver and gold coins, well, that's one thing. If you're going to be buying bricks, that's another for investment. But as long as you know what they're worth on the open market, you know, do your research ahead of time, and also check around with people because there are good people that deal with these things and bad people, as there are in every industry. Yeah. That's about as much as I can tell you.
Yeah, that's the truth. You gotta really check the person out.
Yeah.
Donna, are people going to wake up, and what are they gonna do to make it a better world? There you go, Peter. How's that one?
That for a question with a very finite answer that I can deliver in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, well,
Um, well, I mean, it's just going to be history repeating. I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, I've talked about that a lot in the two different shows that we did, part one and two. Um, I don't really know how to add more to that unless you
sure.
want to be more specific.
Well, I'd like to add something, and that's this: mind your own business. Mind your own business and create the world that you want to live in right now. Don't think that anybody's going to change it for you. Yeah, I agree with Peter that there is cycles, and that's the big thing. But the reality is you can be happy any moment you want. Connect to your breath, put a slight smile on your face, and start focusing on the things that you really love and you want to see in your life. And don't let things get in the way, and stay the hell off of media. Okay, do a blackout and understand something. Stay off of all the regular news channels that the majority listens to, and then guess what? You won't have nightmares. You won't think it's the end of your life, and you won't blow your tumor right through your brain. So the reality is as long as you want to go on regular media and listen to regular news, okay, that everybody else is doing, you're going to be dumping adrenaline and cortisol into your body, and you're going to be frying your brain and everything else. Ina, will land devalue? If we sell our homes in cities now and purchase land with houses, we are still paying more than we would in 7 years, right? Yeah, you'd rent, wouldn't you, Peter?
Yeah, it's the same thing with land. I think land will go down less in value, and it really depends on what happens, but it probably isn't going to go down as much as houses are. It's like driving an automobile off the lot. Automobiles go down a tremendous amount in value. They don't have a long lifetime to them. Land has got a lifetime that lasts virtually forever, so it's always going to keep some of its value, and houses less so. So,
all right.
So land is a good thing over time.
Very good. Okay, so everybody, so tonight you're going to go make some popcorn. Okay, you can put some cayenne on it, maybe some organic butter. Maybe you can put a little bit of Angevita yeast to give it that cheesy flavor. And then you're going to go to earthheroestv.com, and you're going to watch something that's going to blow your mind called Focus on Fauci. All right. Ina, are credit union banks safe? We already talked about that, Ina.
Yeah, depends on the bank.
Ina, again, is it smart to have a secondary place set up now and continue working while you still can make money? Secondary place, I guess a safer place she's talking about.
I don't really know. What do you mean a secondary place? I don't understand what that means.
Well, I guess maybe she lives in the city and she's saying, should I start setting up a place that's maybe in the country or something like that?
Well, this is just part of the planning process. If you're going to buy into, cycles and that there's a depression coming and the stock market is going to crash, then that's just part of your planning process. Sure, if that works for you, that's what I would do. I've got a buddy that's got some property outside, and he's been talking about, he's getting a little older now, so I don't know if he's going to do it, but building a house out there and getting off the grid. I don't know that he'll ever do it, but it's a great dream. And, taxes are going to continue to try and go up. Governments are broke, so they're going to try and tax you. And if you can get away from that, you can get into the country where it's safer and you've got a community of like-minded people around you.
There it is, like-minded people.
Food, and you're close to water, then, community is going to be incredibly important. And also government. In the U.S., you can see the Democratic cities and the Republican cities, and they're different right now. That will probably calm down, but it depends on how government is handled and whether you have somebody that's in charge that's sane. So it's just a lot of it, I think, is common sense, but it makes sense to do some planning, and then you'll be a lot safer.
Raphael, looking at cycles, upcoming civil war, and destabilization of the economy, would you advise moving to a specific region or country in the world for a more comfortable and safe life? Is it advisable if borders get closed? If so, which country?
Well, I don't have a list. One of the things that I'm a sailor, And so I like to bareboat, and that means you go, lease a boat for a couple of weeks, and I go down to the British Virgin Islands, which I love. And if I was to live anywhere, and at my age, while I can still sail, there's very few taxes there. I mean, there virtually are no taxes, and it means that I could do my trading from there and have a yacht and not have, and they're relatively small islands. It's just whatever appeals to you in terms of your life. So I'm starting to think of something like that because I can work. One of the things that I planned to do years ago was to try and get my business, which was television, turned into more of a digital type of business that I could do from a boat. I can do this business from a boat, except for the video, but I could actually shoot a video and put it up online if I wanted to and create more information. So it really depends on you. I would say that we're going to go into a period of a good 30 to 40 years where things are going to be totally different, and you need to start planning to keep your sanity, plan for being in tune with nature and the cycle that's coming. And if you do that, I think you're going to be much happier. It's the same thing the doctor would tell you and has told you, really plan and think ahead and do something that's going to make you happy. I know that Bob Prechter, who wrote the book, The Elliott Wave Principle, said, a great time when we're getting into the market coming down would be to go to a university and learn something that you've always wanted to learn. It's those sorts of things, thinking about what's going to happen and what you could do with your life. One of the things the thing that comes back at the bottom of a depression is blue collar jobs. They come back faster than anything because people need things fixed. They need their homes, like handymen, people that fix things, all of those kinds of blue collars, your car. I would also say to you, this is a little aside, that you don't want to be buying cars with a lot of gizmos and computers in them because they're going to be a lot harder to maintain. I think you should be getting a car that's a good 10 to 15 years old, if you can find it, that's in really good shape, because you're going to be getting back to mechanics that are going to be 2 blocks down from you, or they're going to be out of their home. So it's that kind of thing about thinking of things that you need, that you can use in the new economy. And, one of them, again, is all these energy cars that are out there are probably not going to last. It's a little bit of a fad. So gasoline is going to be around. It's going to be cheap. And so a gas guzzler is going to be just fine going forward. And something that's 10 years old, a secondhand car that you don't have to pay much for, that's going to get you through the next 15 years is probably a better idea than the latest gizmo with all kinds of computer stuff on it. And, it's that kind of thinking, getting back to basics.
Thank you. Ina, what is the debt jubilee that you talked about? We already talked about that. Ina, please go back and to watch the show. Ina, when the World Economic Forum talks about the Great Reset 2030, are they again trying to manipulate Mother Nature by creating their own reset so it plays in favor of them? BC, they know a reset is coming from Mother Nature.
They don't know what they're talking about in terms of Mother Nature, so they don't, their timing is just all of these guys are like 80 years old. They have too much money. They've never worked a day in their life. They really have got this idea of taking over the world. And they've listened to these central bankers central bankers are basically scared, and they have to do it because if they don't, central bankers are going to go
Bust.
Into the dust. I mean, they're just going to completely implode, like they did at the top of Rome, like they did in Jesus's time. They kicked out all the money lenders, and that's the same sort of thing that's going to happen this time. So these guys have got this plan, and it doesn't have anything to do with nature. And the good thing is that Mother Nature kind of takes care of us, because she's going to take the economy out of their hands, and they're not going to be able to do the kind of damage that they've been able to do for the last 100 years. Beauty. And so everything is going to change.
If it's going to get colder, would it make sense to move somewhere south where you can still grow your own fruit and more food varieties and not rely so much on electricity in the wintertime?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. And I think you're going to see a lot of people moving towards the south. Historically, that's what's always happened. People move out of, I mean, you can go back hundreds of years and thousands of years, and people have moved from colder climates during one of these downturns into warmer climates. And so that will happen, and that is a good idea. Yep.
Jerry, I'm looking for serious financial help. I need an effective and economical person financial plan to carry forward in preparation for the future, please. What service is the best for me to enroll in to achieve this goal? Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I don't, that's a good question. I'm not sure that I have a really good answer. If you're having financial issues and you're really heavily in debt, the people I would go through to in Canada are four pillars, and they're all across Canada in every province, and they're great people that understand how to get you safe and whether you should. They'll give you various things you can do and make a recommendation: either go bankrupt or you can put all your debts together and get them reduced by sometimes 80%. I had a friend that did that and got all her debt reduced by 80%, and so she ended up, and now she's just paid it off over the last 2 to 3 years, and I think it was $80,000. She got it down to about 20,000, paid it off. She's debt free. So on the other side, a financial planner is who you would go to help you with debt. But understand that those guys, most of them are trying to sell you product, and you just don't want to get into any investments. It really is getting into cash. And so I'm not sure where that question comes from, but I wouldn't be going.
It comes from a guy who's desperate, and we can't get desperate in these times or we're going to get screwed.
If you're desperate, then four pillars, if you live in Canada, is the place to go. Okay.
So why don't you tell everybody how they can join your system and tell them what it is again for a minute, would you?
It's worldcyclesinstitute.com that's my main site, and I have it's really for traders and anybody that's interested in financial and cycles going forward. I decided to put together a site which is only a subscription site for people that are interested in staying safe. I call it Thrive Academy. It's on the truthsage.com. And in that, I keep you abreast of what's actually happening and, in the world, so that you understand all the crazy stuff that's going on around the world right now and how that's going to play out and what the timing is, as much as I can. And then I get into longer term. There's lists in there of the things that you can get to prepare for when the times are tough. And so I'm going to be paying more attention on that. I've got a lot of health information, and I'm growing that area, and I will probably have to do something on gardening, and I may get somebody that really knows gardening that I will link to my site, sort of thing. So it's really kind of keeping you safe over the longer term. And that costs right now $150 US a year. And with that, I'm continually putting articles and videos within that site and building it up. So it's like you can go to it at any time, find the tab that you're interested in, and get the information under that tab, for example, health or exercise or money or whatever it is. And then I put out a newsletter and a video every month. And I send out an email when that's ready. And that kind of keeps you up to date with what is going on in the world. So that's like. And then the trading one, if you're an active trader, you can get to that through worldcyclesinstitute.com, and that is called Trader's Gold. And you can go in and do a 2-week getting acquainted freebie if you want to see how it all works.
Very good. Peter, there's a gentleman, I think he's called the Urban Gardener, and he's in Kelowna, and he teaches people how to grow gardens in the city and to be the most efficient about it. So you might want to check him out.
I will do that.
Everybody thinks he's amazing. So, and he's called the Urban Gardener. Because
things die around me, so I'm not very good at that. So I'm not going to be telling people how to grow stuff.
Okay, all right. Norma, what do you say about Social Security, Peter?
Don't count on it.
There you go.
There you go. So you have to be able to take care of yourself. I get it right now because I'm 70, and it's kind of nice, but I'm not planning on it being around forever. I think it will be for a while. It really depends on what happens with this debt Jubilee thing and what happens with our money. But what I tell people is don't count on it. Figure out a way of getting your own cash and looking after yourself, because the government isn't going to look after you anymore.
Yeah. Terry, what do you think of Justin Trudeau and all his approaches to basically, I feel like he's selling our country?
Do I have to keep it clean?
No, no, don't. Because it isn't clean. It's a dirty mess.
Trudeau is a puppet, and he's a communist and communist socialist, and there's lots of stories about him and why he looks like Castro, but I'll let your imagination go on that. And he's also one of the things I wrote up when I first did my first newsletter on the Truth Sage site was Cecil Rhodes and the Rhodes Foundation, which are socialists. And what they did was they gave people free educations over the last 100 years and then taught them to be socialists. And because they'd given them a free education, they then go out and try and take that socialist thinking to whatever organization they end up in. Chrystia Freeland, who is our deputy prime minister, and was also the biographer for George Soros.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. She's kind of running the government right that I'm the most concerned about, because I think Trudeau is a complete idiot and doesn't really know much of anything, but he is a puppet. And the other thing that I'll get to in a very short, because if you're on my site, I'm going to start talking about this month. Obama is going to be arrested for treason. There's no question about that. He ran a pedophile organization out of the White House. And that's what China is using to keep control of people. So all of these politicians and people in high places, and Jeffrey Epstein, by the way, is alive, and they're going to give out his information pretty soon. So that's some new news that's going to come out very shortly. But they're going to put all of these people in jail. And that's one of the things that's going to happen over the next few months. And so that's really the big story going forward. I don't know whether Justin Trudeau fits into that, but because the Dominion systems were in Canada, he now is in some trouble in terms of the US and not liking him very much. And, once they take out a lot of these people, a lot of these kingpins and maybe some of the oligarchs, he's probably going to disappear into the woodwork because he's going to be on his own. And that's not a good thing for Justin Trudeau. So I don't, he's a problem, but it's, I think of him being more as kind of Pigpen. He just has he's just a disaster, and he's just not going anywhere. So I don't know what's going to happen with Chrystia Freeland, but we may end up over time overthrowing the government. I know that in Alberta, we're not very happy with the eastern part of our country, the central part of our country. And so maybe we will, there's people talking about secession. So it's going to be interesting as to what happens going forward. And I don't have any answers, but I know that countries, this is the time over the next 30 years where countries secede. And the environment starts to change that way. The globe starts to change. So who knows? But that's the kind of situation we're going into. We always have weak leaders. And if we get really tired of them, but I think this whole thing's going to fall apart with these oligarchs and what they're trying to do, and that's going to happen very, very soon over the next month or so. So the complexion of our planet is going to change drastically in the next few months.
Thank you, Peter.
And I don't know what's going to happen after that, really, in terms of who our leaders are going to be.
So we made it to the end of the questions, but we weren't able to take any live questions. And next time what we'll do is we'll advertise that we're going to have a show, and we'll come on and we'll take live questions, and I'll let people know. And I would say that, what would be a good time? Maybe in about 6 weeks, Peter? What do you think?
Yeah, that's good, I think. And I can see, I did those 2 shows, and I'm sorry that the first one was really long. It went for a couple of hours.
Oh no, people didn't complain. They learned a lot, Peter.
But I look at that as the base. So if you have that, a lot of the videos I'm going to be putting out are going to be somewhat shorter and are going to be refined into certain sort of subjects, if you like, of cycles. So they will be shorter, and we can do one of those as well. Which is where I was leading to in 6 weeks. We could do something, for example, I'm going to do this little 20-minute, I think it's going to be on Elizabethan England, and show how things progress on the downside and give you an idea of what's going to happen when, based on history. I don't know if it's going to be the same this time, but I think if you have an idea of where things are going, then you can kind of roll with the punches, because there's an awful lot about, the bigger picture I know, but what's going to happen individually by country, I don't know.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll probably play your 1 and 2 part on a weekend, and then we'll have you, and then I'll tag on the end that we're going to have you on for a Q&A, and then we'll have you come a few days later. So, stirs up the pot a little bit.
Okay, and sure, and I am working on a book. So, I mean, we're talking about 4,000 years of history here. So it's taking me a lot of time to work through it. I have lots of great books that I use, and I'm slotting things in with great stories. And for this book, I'm calling it, my working title is The World Turns, because it's all about planets and turning objects and sorts of things like that. And I'm trying to relate history to today so that people understand that these patterns repeat. And if you understand the patterns, it's very much like in the market. It's the same thing. In the market, the patterns repeat. And if you know where you are and you know the options for the patterns, you can trade it. And the same thing you can do if you kind of know where we are in the 172-year cycle. You can get an idea as to whether you should buy a house. And there's an 18.5-year real estate cycle. And if you understand these things on just kind of a basic scale, then you can plan on when to buy a home and when to rent, for example, as one option.
You know what, Peter? I can remember so many times throughout my life that somebody would say history repeats itself. Well, I think you pretty well nailed that sucker. What do you think?
Well, I find this just fascinating. And, as a speaker, I used to teach people how to put together presentations. And, they're kind of a dime a dozen people that do that. And I wanted something with a little more depth, because you end up doing that to all of these usually corporate dummies that couldn't care less, treat you like crap because they all have big egos. And when I got into cycles, this is really deep. Nobody else is doing it, to my knowledge. And I find it absolutely fascinating. And if I do it properly, it's something you can use going forward and also pass down to your kids.
Right.
So that they stay safer and they know what's going to happen during their lives.
Absolutely.
So I get a lot from it. And, when people listen and take what I say and use it, I try and be as accurate as I can, but that's basically my thanks. I love helping people and helping them understand the crap that we get fed by governments and central bankers and pharmaceuticals and all of these things, which is not healthy. And that is going to change. So it's going to be amazing. It's going to take some time, but the world we're going to move into is going to be a lot better for your kids and for you, even though we're going to have a pretty rough economy for a while. There's going to be some pain, but overall, I think we're going to have a much better world. That's what's always happened in the past at these big tops.
Thank you, Peter. Is there anything else you'd like to leave people with?
Not really. I try and stay pretty accessible, although I am trying to write books, and so I'm looking for large periods of time that I can do some writing. But if you get onto one of my sites, I try and answer as many questions as I can when I can, and so I try and stay accessible. I'm not tough to get hold of, so that's about the only other thing I'd say. I want to help you. I want to help you understand what's going on in the world as much as I can, and make sure that you have a better life, because a lot of people are going to get hurt, over the next while, and it's not their fault. It's their fault because, they've just been taught things that are not real. I mean, banks, for example, government doesn't want you to know how banks work. If you knew how banks work, you would never keep your money in them. That's why, because they're not safe. It's a crappy system.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a Ponzi scheme. So there you go.
Yeah, as George Carlin said, it's a big club and you're not in it. They just use it to hit you over the head.
Yeah, there have been some very smart people that have figured this thing out. And the problem is that governments have a lot of money to throw at the propaganda. And so it just is constant.
They have a lot of our money that they take.
Yes. Isn't that it's our money that they are
Pissing
taking
away.
and using for propaganda,
Yeah.
so that they can take more of our money. It's such a terrible
You know, it's like this.
infrastructure, I guess, is,
A year ago, there wasn't any money to clean up the water, to help to clean up the food, or to help single mothers, or to even do anything. And then now we can pay everybody $500 a week to eat burritos and tacos on the couch.
Yeah, isn't that great for us, for our health?
Yeah,
And they don't care. Governments don't care. The politicians don't care. They're in it for themselves.
yeah,
And whenever you see anything that's going to be more convenient for you, usually you want to run in the opposite direction because you know it's going to cost you money, and it's more convenient because they're selling you something they probably shouldn't be selling you.
that's right.
You know.
Well, I'm sold on you, my friend, and I want to thank you and bless you for all the work that you do.
Well, thank you. It's also fun. I have often said, because I was in television and advertising for 50 years, I've never really had a real job. I've always been kind of an entrepreneur. And here I am again doing something I love. And I hope that all of your listeners out there have the same opportunity to find something that they love. And I think now is the perfect time to be doing that and planning ahead over the next 5 to 10 years, knowing where we're going, to make the most use of your time and to have a happier life. Because, we get into this debt slavery and it's just dumb. And it's kind of keeping up with the Joneses. And getting into debt is an awful thing because banks take advantage of you. And it's just, there's no good side of it. And we're going into a much happier time. And I hope we do have this debt jubilee and get back down to starting again all over, and not having the banking, it's the financial system we have that creates such havoc and gets us into this debt slavery and makes many of us bankrupt. And that's what's happening it's inflation. When they do inflation, our money becomes worth less and less and less, but wages stay where they are, and resources and things stay the same. And so we end up having less money over time and less and less and less, and our lifestyles get worse and worse and worse. And then we start eating crappy food because they take all of the nutrients out of our food and sell us garbage because it's cheaper, and with our products as well. I mean, it's just, if you understand what's going on in society, we need to change this because it's just unhealthy for the population. It's great for Amazon and Apple and Facebook and all of these megalomaniacs, but it's not good for the 99%. We need to, that's really what we're going to go through. It's going to change. It's going to turn everything upside down so it becomes better for us. And a lot of those megalomaniacs are going to jail where they belong. Welcome to Gitmo. So
right.
there you go. So I'm very positive about the future. We just have to be careful to plan for it. That's all.
There you go. Thank you, Peter.
So, thank you for doing this. I've enjoyed it. So that's great, and I'm very interested in what you do, and I'm going to be spending some more time. You gave me 3 things to look at, and so at some point we'll talk more about that.
We will, and I'll be giving you a call tomorrow, and we'll set up a date for you to come back. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right.
That sounds great. Yep.
God bless you, my friend. Have a beautiful night, whatever you do. Okay.
Hey, thank you. I've got a video to get out for my my trading people, so it's all my charts are set up. I'll do that in about 20 minutes and be done.
All right. Be well, my friend. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
Bless you.
And to all of everybody listening, be well, thrive. Don't be scared. We've all gone through this before as human beings. You just have to know what's going ahead of time and plan for it, and you'll be just fine.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. We answered as many questions as we can, but we already said that we'll come back in about 6 weeks, because it'll give you some time to really think about this, and you'll come up with some questions. And when we go live in 6 weeks, we'll take all the live questions that you want to send in, okay? This was a lot of questions, and I want to thank Peter for hanging in there with us and answering all those questions. I'm just going to go over a couple things right now. Tuesday, January the 12th, okay. Wait, now, hold on one second. Let me see here. Tuesday, January the 12th will be the next Doc Talk Live, okay? Q&A. I will not be doing one next week. I will be doing like my one-a-days, but next week I'm going on live and I'm doing a practitioner training for the week, but I'll be bopping on. Wednesday, January the 13th, New Year's Eve exclusive with Del Bigtree from Highwire. He's going to be coming on at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It'll be one of the last shows that we do for 3 p.m. because you know what, we want to bring in all our brothers and sisters around the world. So you know what, if we do our shows at 10 a.m., which we're going to start doing all of our shows, then we're going to be able to bring in a lot of Europe and England, and yeah, let's have some fun. Let's bring in the whole family, right? This is an Earth family. Thursday, January the 14th, guess what? I'm kicking off the Water Fasting Challenge. Even if you're not going to do it, you need to come and watch this. I'm going to give you so many beautiful tips, okay? And that'll be at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on January the 14th, and you've got 2 weeks. What I'm doing is I'm giving you all the stuff that you need to do to prepare to get ready for a 6-day water fasting challenge with yourself. And this is an advanced water fasting challenge because understand something. Advanced means what? Well, you just don't want to do a water fast. It's too hard on the human body. And we now know that we can actually use energy medicine nutritionals that won't turn on your digestive tract, but will turn on your stem cells and will turn on autophagy to go in and eat up those tumors, eat up that scar tissue, help to get rid of the fungus, the bacteria, the viruses that you don't want. Okay? So that's what we're going to be doing there. And then I'm going to be on every day. Okay? So what's going to happen is we're going to be on January the 14th. I'm going to be doing that 1.5 hour special on this. And then I'll be coming back on the 26th. And then guess what? We're going to launch this thing. Okay? And then I'll be on with you for 6 days at 10 a.m. in the morning. Okay? And I'll be helping to coach you through. Whether you want to do it for 1 day, 3 days, 6 days, or you want to go longer, we're going to support you on this. And I'll be answering questions for an hour every day. Okay, so what kind of learning do you want? That's the learning where you become the master of your body. Okay, so on Wednesday, January the 20th, though, I'll be with Dr. Magda Havas. She is the world leader in 5G smartphone toxicity, and that's exactly what the show's called. And then on Thursday, she's going to answer all your questions live from that Wednesday show, okay, at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. And then on Friday, we're going to have Peter Webb talking about how you can protect yourself with crystal radionics. So using radionics embedded in the crystals like this. Okay. How crazy does that sound? All right. You're able to do that. And understand something. When you start using crystals in your life, whether I have devices that we use that put different frequencies through crystals, you want to talk about healing. Well, I have a vitamin D light where we have crystal plates in front of it, and it will actually help to return muscle to people that have no muscle. It goes right down to the RNA and DNA. Understand, like Einstein said, energy medicine is the future. So let's unleash that, okay? All right. And then upcoming courses, I'm going to be in Mexico City on Friday, February the 12th, 13th, and 14th, and I will be lecturing to 300 doctors, okay? And it's going to be about on anti-aging and premature aging, and I'm going to be showing them techniques. And then on February, March, the 26th, 27th, 28th, I have what's called, okay, Advanced Whole Life Mind and Body Masterclass for everyone, and it's going to be inexpensive for what we're giving you. 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll be there, and I'll be teaching you what you need to know to master that mind and your body. And it's online, everyone, okay? And then I'll be in Ecuador on Monday, April the 8th, 9th, and 10th. I'll be lecturing to 200 doctors, and then I'm going to Colombia to do it for another 500 doctors. And then I'm coming back, and the reality is this. I'll be in Playa del Carmen right after I finish in Colombia, and I'll be going to Playa del Carmen on Monday, April the 26th. I'll be there for 21 days doing the New World Practitioner Combination Course, the Whole Life Certification, and the Wolfe Non-Surgical. And guess what? We're on a 100-acre property, and they have 10 cenotes, which are these beautiful water with crystal in them that come up, and you can actually go swimming in them. They've got underwater river caves right on the property, okay? And we're going to be teaching in this 6,000 square foot building that is so beautiful. It's so zen, and it's built to nature. And guess what? We'll be giving you 3 places you can stay. We'll pick you up every day, bring you. It's about 15 minutes from the place, and we'll take you back home at the end of the day. We'll have organic food for lunch. Okay? Are you ready? Are you ready? We're going to do it. Enough is enough. It's time we start living, start finding your passion, finding your purpose, okay? And then in Kelowna, June the 5th, I'll be doing a 21-day combined certification, all right? So if you want to join up, we already have 6. We only take 12. That's it in Kelowna. But in Mexico, we'll be taking a lot more, okay? All right? And that's about it, everybody. All our shows are time-stamped, so that means that if you go to YouTube, this show will be time-stamped by tomorrow afternoon. And if there's a certain question you wanted to know, you can go directly to that question. And we do that with all our shows. And if you want to watch any of my shows by downloading the audio onto your phone, if you're on a subway or driving in your car, you can go to iTunes, Spotify, or SoundCloud. Again, I want to thank Peter for coming on the show, and I want to thank you, our listeners. And I just want you to know that the Doc of Detox show is about not treatment, not supplement. It's about giving your power back. But let's stop giving it away. Okay, everyone? 3, 2, 1. Hey, Braveheart, you got this. God bless, and have the best night of your life. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.